Hello, I'm Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Scottish Football Forums podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Scottish Football Forums podcast. Joining me this week, as usual, is Laurie, our co-host. Hello, Laurie.
As usual, sounds so enthusiastic. Hello.
What I'll do is I'll get my thesaurus out for next week to see if I can think of something different to say. So we've got a guest who's making his debut this evening, and he is on the forum as Danny1888, and he's on Twitter as well as Danny Ferris. So I thought we'd go straight into it and talk about the Europa League clash during the week, and that was Rennes versus Celtic, which finished 1-1, which I was surprised that Celtic managed to get a point away from home. I'd predicted that they would be defeated. Did either of you manage to watch the game? I'm sure, Danny, you would have watched it.
Yeah, managed to catch off the game. Was surprised that we drew 1-1, of course, because our European record has been rather abysmal over the past 10 years. But there was still a few causes of concern. New defensive pairing for about the 15th time this season. And, well, obviously, I'm sure you've both seen the goal. Is that right, Laurie, Craig?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any particular blame for either of these two, like Foster and Cha?
It's sometimes hard to tell when you can't hear who's maybe shouted, because a lot of these things are to do with if someone calls for it. But from what I can see, you've got to blame both to a degree, certainly from the offset. I don't know why Foster's away out there, but then if he's shouted for it, then maybe it is his ball. But then Cha should really look before he plays the ball back. So it's hard to tell because, maybe the keeper shouted on it and then there's not really so much blame on him. But I would certainly, Cha especially, he should be looking before you pass the ball back. You shouldn't just kind of do it blindly like that. So I'd probably put more blame on him personally.
I can't really remember. I don't follow Foster too much, but is he right-footed or is he left-footed?
Right-footed.
Yes. There was talk of Foster maybe diving to get the ball because he was in his box, and yeah, it would have been a free kick. I think it was Craig Burley was having a good old moan about it. You know what he's like with his opinions, but he was saying, well, why did Foster not just dive and accept the free kick, which is obviously much better than a goal. He maybe would have got booked as part of that, but again, it's much better than a goal. I was also surprised when the camera zoomed in on Cha's face after the goal, and I don't know what I expect from a player, but I definitely don't expect him to be almost smirking.
Well, I think it's a smirk of embarrassment more than anything. I don't think he was exactly happy with himself.
But I thought they'd done well. They came away with a point, which, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't really expect due to their previous record. I'd predicted a 1-0 victory for Rennes. Laurie, you'd went worse and you'd went for a 2-0 victory. And John, or JB, he'd went for a 1-0 victory. So moving on to the SPL, and the lunchtime kick-off was Motherwell versus Killie, and that was live on Sky Sports 4. Other sports channels are available. The final score was 0-0, which suggested a fairly boring game, but from what I've seen in the highlights, it seemed pretty interesting. There was kind of mixed reaction on the forum. I think it was Japester said that it was a decent game to watch. I didn't get to see much of it at all. I'd predicted a 3-0 victory for Motherwell. I thought they would continue their form, but I was clearly wrong. And Laurie, you'd went for a 2-1 to Killie, which I was surprised at the time. Again, wrong. John had went for a 1-1 draw, so he would have got 1 point in the SFF predictor. Did either of you get to see it?
I watched Wolves and Swansea instead, which, well, on the face of it, seemed a better game. But, well, as for the Motherwell game itself, 2 points dropped, would you reckon?
I wouldn't say especially. I think Killie a good side. I think Motherwell almost in a false position a bit. I think they've got the results a lot of times when maybe they haven't played especially well. But I mean, that's what everyone says is the mark of a good side, I suppose. But I thought Killie kind of shaded it. They definitely used the ball a bit better. They moved it around better than Motherwell. Although in the kind of opening stages, Motherwell still had a couple of best chances. And then Harkins, though, it was for Killie who came closest. He hit the post. But overall, it was a game that kind of promised to get going, but never really did, is the way I saw it. I mean, I think we were saying Japester was just a bit lonely and bored on Saturday, so I think any kind of football was entertaining to him. But you've got like Psycho Hart on the forum said the double save from the Killie keeper was probably the only real highlight of the game. Another game I expected better from, but was ultimately disappointed. And yeah, Yakala, I think, is the Finnish keeper for Killie. He did make a good double save at one point.
Yeah.
And it was Jape who said 0-0, good game though. And then Black Dog did reply saying, I didn't think so, Jape, mind you. I think you'd get excited at anything today. So that was that was the point we were making there. But yeah, a bit of a nothing game. I'm reasonably happy with that because I think ultimately my aspirations as a Hearts fan will be to finish third. And at the moment, it would seem that although they're in second, I think as the season plays out, it will be them who will be maybe fighting for third place. As much as I'd like to be more optimistic from a Hearts or a Motherwell point of view, I think ultimately first and second will be occupied by the usual culprits.
I suppose it depends who Motherwell get rid of in January. Like, do you think they'll keep Darren Randolph? Do you think, I think a few of the other players in midfield, do you think they'll keep them as well? Like, there'll be clubs interested in them.
Well, Murphy's got to go at some point, I think. I mean, if they want to get money for him as well, because, you know, the longer you keep someone, the longer his contract. I have no idea how long he's got on his contract, mind you, so for all I know, it's the end of the season. For all I know, it's 5 years. But again, even with the team, even if they kept the whole team, I would say the absolute best they could aim for is third. And even then, all due respect to Motherwell, I'd be pretty disappointed if the Hearts team didn't finish above them. But then again, they're getting the points on the board at the moment, so can't really argue with that. And in the same way that Rangers are obviously getting the results at the top, but I don't think either side really complain about the draw. I don't think either really did enough to win it.
So the next game up I've got here is Dundee United versus St Johnstone, which I was hoping for a lot from this. I thought that Dundee United would come away with a 2-1 victory, despite St Johnstone really being scoring goals, or should I say Sandaza scoring goals. But it ended up 0-0. Laurie, you'd went for a 1-1 draw, so you would have got 1 point in the predictor, and John had went for a 2-1 victory to St Johnstone. So it was St Johnstone's first game for Alec Cleland in charge, and I think Jody Morris is also in charge. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I think it's the two of them. Am I right?
Well, as joint managers, or one head coach and one director of football?
Joint managers, obviously, while they search for the permanent appointment.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I was reading the paper on Sunday morning, and the headline was "Grim Encounter Raises Few Talking Points."
Yeah, I didn't watch it because I couldn't be bothered watching the highlights of a 0-0 game, so I didn't even bother. I was hoping someone else had watched it. So, yeah, I thought it'd be a draw, and actually, me and Danny were discussing it yesterday. We both predicted the same score for this and the Inverness game. We just got them the wrong way around, because I think I put 0-0 for Inverness and that was 1-1, and I put 1-1 for this. So yeah. I never expected much from the game, I'll be brutally honest. Dundee United are on a bit of a poor run of form, and as much as St Johnstone are doing quite well, they're still not exactly the most expansive team, and I thought they'd be quite cautious away at Tannadice, even though Dundee United aren't on the best of form. So yeah, not really surprised that it was a nothingy game. It
was two teams that, well, they like to attack anyway. St Johnstone, obviously, with Sandaza and Sheridan's the front two. Probably the third best strike force in the SPL, but hopefully Hibs fans will maybe argue something different. Dundee United, Pierre Houston's trying to get on to play good football, where it actually comes off every week is, well, it's not proving to be the case.
So the next game up I've got is Inverness against Dunfermline. A crucial game for both sides as they're both, looks like they're going to be fighting for relegation. I tipped Dunfermline for relegation myself at the start of the season, but they started quite well and surprised a few, but they started to go into a bit of a free fall and they look like they will be challenging for relegation at the end of the day. So the game itself finished 1-1, and I'd went for a 2-0 victory to Dunfermline, going on previous encounters the SPL this season, but obviously 0 points for that. Laurie and John had went for a Paul Band, 0-0, so he would have got 1 point in the predictor. Did either of you manage to watch this thrilling encounter?
Well, I watched the highlights of it. I think a fairly even game. Inverness as a home team would obviously be slightly disappointed with just a draw, but I suppose it's a point closer to survival.
I think the seat is 2 points dropped at home at Dunfermline, who Hearts played last week, and I think are pretty rotten, is the way I describe them. There's nothing about them much, and Inverness at home, I have a feeling that those two are going to be down there, maybe occupying the bottom two spots, fighting for relegation. So Inverness maybe will feel that they should have taken the points in the home tie, and I think they will certainly feel that way, especially due to the fact they were leading until, what was the penalty, was in the last 5-10 minutes?
86 minutes.
Yeah, so it's always disappointing, but maybe on the balance of play it was what they deserved. The home fans at the end were kind of booing, and Butcher wasn't too complimentary the way his team had played, so you usually think that maybe they hadn't done enough to deserve the victory there. But yeah, I would look at it as for Dunfermline a point gained and for Inverness 2 points dropped.
So moving on to the St Mirren against Hibs game, which really surprised me this weekend as it finished Hibs 3, St Mirren 2. I couldn't see past a St Mirren victory. I thought St Mirren have really impressed me this season. And Hibs, despite O'Connor scoring quite a few goals, they've just been very woeful, I think would be the correct term for it. So I'd predicted a 3-1 victory to St Mirren. Laurie, you'd went 2-0 to St Mirren, and John had went 1-0. So I think the big talking point for me anyway from this is Soji and his miss from about 4 yards. Did you see it?
Was this in the second half?
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped watching after the third goal went in for him.
So did I.
And missed it.
Yeah, I didn't see I don't think I saw the miss anyway. I was still watching, but I just wasn't paying attention because I knew there was any more goals left. But a big win for Hibs, a surprise away win for them really, especially when they went 2-1 behind. Obviously, the first goal was an absolute howler by Sampson, goalkeepers should never try and be outfield players.
Why did he turn towards his goal? I can understand why keepers get frustrated and they think, I can do a wee bit of skill and get by this attacker because he's going to be lunging in, but just don't go towards your goal.
The technical term, I think, is that he shat it. But
that language allowed on this podcast?
Laurie's going to get a...
Shat isn't even a word. You can't be counted as a swear word.
You're getting fined, Laurie.
I'm getting a fine. Oh, Jesus. Oh, no, I said that. I suppose that's technically blasphemy as well. But anyway, good for Griffiths, though, and I think important for Hibs that someone else scored other than O'Connor. Obviously, the first one was a gift, but it was a really good finish for the third one from a tight angle. I would say the Hibs' second goal, I would say normally I'd expect a free kick to be given there. And the Motherwell Kelly game, Pasquale had a goal to slide, pretty much the same thing.
Yes.
Climbing on the back of a defender. Yep. And I'd say 9 times out of 10 I'd expect that to be a straightforward free kick against the attacking player. But there you go, play to the whistle. Yeah, good for Hibs, but at the same time, pretty vulnerable at the back still. So that'll be something to work on for Calderwood. But a win that they'd kind of desperately needed, because if they hadn't won, I think they would have been joint bottom with Inverness at the moment, I think, so yep. If they'd lost. So a big win for Calderwood and Hibs.
It was a nice change. Hibs had 3 goal scorers that weren't Gary O'Connor, 2 Griffiths and 1 for O'Hanlon. Is that the first time that's happened for Hibs this season?
I think it's definitely the first time.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think it's definitely the first time they've won when O'Connor's not scored anyway. I'm pretty sure. In the league, that is, anyway. So, yeah, as I say, it's good for Griffiths to get scoring, and I think he could be a good player for them if he can find some form.
It's all about Lee Griffiths' temperament, I think. Like, even as a youngster, I've played against him a few times, and he was, a bit of a hothead, to be quite honest. and I think when he played for his debut for Hibs,